Stocks, bonds, ETFs, straight out of downtown Chicago. This is Zacks Market Edge.
Welcome to Zacks Market Edge, the podcast about investing in your life. I'm your host, Tracey Ryniec, and today I'm joined by Eric Dutram, Zacks ETF strategist and also the editor of The Surprise Trader and the ETF Investor. This is podcast number 18. I can't believe we're up that high, but we are, number 18, and today's topic is one of my favorites. It involves curses. Curses in finance. You don't see that every day, but we're going to discuss the Skyscraper Index, the Stadium Curse, and briefly the Super Bowl indicator as well.
That's right.
Because these are the things everyone cares about. So let's start off with the Super Bowl indicator. What is that? What does it do?
Well, Tracey, the Super Bowl indicator, pretty interesting one. I'm a little mad you wanted to cut this from the
Well, I kind of did, because I was like, we're done with that now.
Because this is actually one of the more interesting ones because it's one of the most misunderstood. So if a team from the original NFL wins the Super Bowl, then the stock market will go up that year.
The original
NFL or a descendant from one of the original NFL teams. That's going to come into play.
So that would be like Chicago.
How many
the
Giants. There's a lot, but there's also that also actually includes the Steelers, who are descended from original NFL team, and the Colts.
Okay, so even if you move somewhere else, if you were an original one, you still are considered.
Right. Even though today those last two teams are in the AFC conference.
Okay.
And on the other side, you got the descendants of the AFL, which is no longer in existence, or expansion teams that have come into being in the AFC.
Okay.
So that includes teams like the Patriots, which are going to be among the most popular. Rams also would be included there because they used to be back in the AFL way back in the day.
Okay. This is where I always get it wrong. I always thought it just meant if the NFC versus the AFC won, but that's not right.
That's not right. And because actually with the Ravens winning back in 2013, and we actually had the Steelers winning back in 2009, those are actually pretty good years for the market. 2009 for the Dow went up 18% roughly. And then in 2013, it was one of the best years, 26% for the Dow.
Okay, so what does it mean that Denver won?
It's not good that Denver won, is what it means. Generally, when the in AFC or AFL descendant wins, it's bad news for the stock market. It goes down, or at least that's the prediction for the Super Bowl indicator. But I will point out the last two times the Broncos win, those were two of the wrong ones in the last 25 years. There's only been 5 wrong ones, and 2 of those were when the Broncos last won the Super Bowl. And the market actually had 2 of its best years in the last 25 years. So you never know.
If anything, it's just a Broncos thing.
Exactly. And if anything, it should be a Patriots indicator because since the Patriots have won their 4 Super Bowls, that's been among the worst 4 years for the market. We've seen big losses in last year wasn't great, and then we also saw 2004 was only a 3% gain, and then early on the year too. And then, they should have won back in 2008 probably against the Giants when they were undefeated. And that was the worst year of all.
Yeah.
So, I think if anything, it's a Patriots indicator, but, I wouldn't put too much stock in this one, especially you get all these extra teams in the NFC and the NFL. So.
Right, but this sounds like it's kind of accurate.
Yeah, it's accurate about 80% of the time.
Wow.
And it's on a 7-year streak, so we'll see how this one goes this year.
Okay, I'm a little scared
It's not
now.
a good start for sure.
No, I guess I should pay attention to it, towards the end of the year.
That's
and we'll
right.
see. Oh, boy. Okay, so switching gears, we're going to do the Skyscraper Index. Now, I've seen this is called 2 different names. Skyscraper Index is what I found when I was looking it up.
Me too.
But we've always just called it Skyscraper Indicator.
Yeah, I think indicator is just a better word.
It is. What does index mean? But this has been around since 1999. It was apparently founded by a property analyst named Andrew Lawrence, and he started to see this correlation between the building of the world's tallest buildings and bad things happening right after they were built, basically.
Yeah.
And some of the history of it is really interesting, when you actually see it charted out. And that's why everybody pays attention to what this indicator is saying.
For sure.
Because it's kind of ominous sometimes.
The 30s was one of the most ominous ones. We got the Bank of Manhattan Trust Building, which is today known as the Trump Building. It's at 40 Wall Street, I think, in New York City.
Okay.
The Chrysler Building and the Empire State Building. They were all built within 3 years of each other in New York City.
But that was right before the downturn.
Exactly.
Though.
They were all built right, they started constructing them right at the beginning. And then, by 1931, when all 3 of these were completed, we were in the, kind of the heart of the Great Depression there. So definitely not a good trend for that, especially the worst crisis that the country's ever experienced.
Right, and those were the tallest buildings
Exactly.
at the time.
Each one of them was the tallest in the world. They all got eclipsed pretty short order by the next one. And then the Empire State Building was the tallest for a while there.
Now, I guess one of the things people do look at with the indicator is that it's kind of like a hubris thing. Like, things are going so good and we're on top of the world.
That's right.
So we're actually going to literally build on top of the world.
Right. Yeah, we're going to show everyone we're going to build the tallest building anyone's ever seen.
So in the 1970s in the United States, they continued to build the tallest buildings again. And we had the Sears Tower, which everyone here in Chicago knows and loves. We still call it the Sears Tower.
Right.
We don't call it that other name, which we won't even say. And then you had the World Trade Center towers, which were also around the same time.
Right. I think the World Trade Center was just before the Sears Tower.
Okay, so in the early 1970s, and then there was a 2-year pretty severe bear market in the stock market in the early 70s, and overall the global economy wasn't all that great in the 70s. And then you had the oil shock and things in the later 70s.
Definitely. So another good indicator, it seems for the 70s for the Skyscraper Index.
Yeah, and then going forward, we had those big towers in Malaysia, didn't we, in the 90s?
Petronas, or however you pronounce it. I'm still a little unsure, but in Kuala Lumpur, 1998, which heralded in the Asian financial crisis, which was an extremely difficult time for countries like Malaysia and Thailand and the whole host of them over there.
Okay, and then, again, we had the big towers going up in the middle of the 2000s. That was not weird. In fact, here in Chicago, they were going to build, I think, what was then going to be among the tallest ever. Yeah. It called the Spire. And it was this cool looking spiral shaped building that was enormous.
I think it was going to be 150 stories, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be
condos.
2,000 feet. Yeah.
Yeah, huge. And they dug the hole in the ground even.
That's right. The hole's still there, I think.
Yes, it's still there, that poor neighborhood in Streeterville. And then everything went bust.
Right.
And it was never built.
Right.
The rest of it, at least.
Definitely. And also early 2000s, we also had in Taipei, Taipei 101 was among the tallest. And then right now we've got, the Burj Khalifa, I think that's how you pronounce it.
I don't know how to pronounce that one either.
I guess we should have looked at the pronunciation for some of these. But, that was in 2010, and that was also,
But they were
right
constructing
after.
that before,
Exactly.
too.
I mean, that was a massive building.
Yeah.
And
that
then
took years.
I think we just saw in Saudi Arabia.
Okay, this is the big news. This is why we should care about the indicator, because they are currently right now building in Saudi Arabia, as you just said, the world's tallest. And it's called the Jeddah Tower, or some people call it the Kingdom Tower. And it's going to be just slightly taller than the one in Dubai.
Right.
And it's costing them $1.5 billion. They do have the financing for it because they are constructing it right now. It's not supposed to be done until 2019. But obviously they started building it when crude oil was much higher. And now it's slammed down. And I was reading that they said that it's going to cost maybe 28 to 30 billion to build the area around it. Yeah. So they will, finish the tower part, but the whole development.
Yeah, it could just be a wasteland right around it.
Yeah, it's not clear if but it's still a couple years away, so they still have some time.
You never know, but it doesn't seem like a good timing on their part.
No, and it's kind of ironic, I feel, that it is being built in Saudi Arabia, one of the world's largest oil producers, right when all of this is happening. So it seems like the indicator is actually working with this one.
Yeah, it seems like in history, it's been a pretty accurate guide.
Yeah.
So,
but okay, one other thing. They did just make an announcement about another new tower. I can't believe this. And this one is in Japan. I don't think it has a name yet. I was looking it up because it's very new. No name yet. It's just called Japan High Rise, apparently. And this is going to be double the size of the one in Dubai, the Burj. I mean, I can't even believe I'm saying that. Like several miles high. But I kind of give this one a pass for the hubris thing, because apparently this is going to be built in the Tokyo Bay. It would be called the Next Tokyo, and it's going to be a man-made city with like almost 500,000 people living there. In addition to, there's going to be other buildings, not just this one high rise. And they're building it kind of as a barrier to global warming and the bay coming in. So I feel like this is not really a hubris thing so much. I don't know.
It still sounds pretty crazy, but you know, my feeling is if they don't have a name for it yet, then
we're not counting it.
Yeah,
it's just a plan until they actually start constructing. Maybe.
Yeah, because you see some of these crazy plans for mile high towers out in Tokyo or whatever, and none of them have come to pass yet. So I'm gonna take a pass on that one until we get some more concrete information.
Okay. But yeah, this indicator, I feel like it is actually signaling maybe a top in the global economy here.
Yeah. Now, do you worry when we see like a big building boom in any cities? Do you think that's an issue, or do you think it's just when we get these super high towers?
Well, I feel like it's the high tower thing is really the hubris angle of it. And like, oh, we're doing so good and we're going to build the biggest tower bigger than everyone else.
Because, obviously we have two of the best views here in the office in Chicago. And, we see a ton of construction going on.
There is, but it's the lower level variety.
But I remember back in 2007, 2008, we saw a similar boom and then, everything fell apart. And I remember the Waterview Tower. They built just the parking garage. It was about 20 stories, and it sat just as the parking lot for a good 5-6 years. And I always said, once they start building that again, that will be when we're finally out of the slump. And sure enough, like 2012, 2013, they built the rest of it. I think it's called 111 nowadays. Yeah. But, that's done and completed. But for a while, that was just a...
So what is your theory on the Spire then, the hole in the ground here in Chicago that we mentioned?
Right.
Because that apparently has changed hands and there are plans to build something there, not the world's tallest, but to fill in the hole and to put a building up.
If we see a super tall one, I'm going to start getting pretty concerned because we're seeing a ton of construction down here. We see it every day. Yeah. And, I don't think it's good. I don't think it's as, important as the skyscraper indicator, but, we'll have to keep our eye on that too, I think.
Okay. So the indicator is flashing ominous sign.
Exactly, especially if you're in Jeddah.
Yeah, especially about oil. That's not good.
That's right.
Okay, let's switch over to the stadium curse. Of course, I like anything with the name curse in it, as I've mentioned. This is an older indicator, kind of. Started around 2000, 2001, when a lot of the companies that had sponsored stadiums started going under, the companies, not the stadiums. And then it got this name of a curse by a writer at CNN Money named Chris Isidore. And he used to track it, but it's kind of gone out of favor because I feel like less of the companies have gone bankrupt. Right. Let's start with one of the most famous ones in the stadium curse was Enron Field. That was down in Houston. They signed the deal in 1999, and this is when they paid for the sponsorship to put their name on it. It was $3.3 million a year, and then 2 years later, they went bankrupt. Yeah. This is kind of similar to the Skyscraper Index, I feel, because the whole point of it is that the company is confident. It too has some hubris, like, oh, we have nothing else better to spend our money on except to put it on the side of this sports complex and feel all proud of ourselves. And it's kind of seen by some as a waste of money and kind of like the peak of where the company is. And that's why it got the curse name. Yeah. And I did see, this was interesting, by 2003, 9 of the 63 stadium sponsors had filed for bankruptcy. So there is something to be said for this curse thing. And a whole bunch of the other ones were struggling. A couple of the other names other than Enron at the time were National Car Rental, WorldCom, Adelphia, a lot of the airlines, US Airways, and then United also. They have United Center here in Chicago, which they still have.
That's right.
They went bankrupt in 2002, and their sponsorship is $1.8 million a year. But I see some other stuff going on. Like this curse kind of came back in 2008, 2009, because a lot of the banks are big time sponsors. Sure. And there is Citi Field out there that got a lot of criticism. That's the Mets stadium. They paid $20 million a year over 20 years. They didn't go BK, Citigroup, but they did have to get the bailout, and yet they're spending $20 million a year on this.
And I definitely think you're right about the, it being a big source of pride.
Right.
And I think the problem with this curse, and I don't really like this one as much as the others.
It's not as accurate, I feel.
Well, it's definitely got some accuracy to it, but the problem I have is, the Enron stuff and the WorldCom. Was it really their hubris? Kind of their whole company was basically built on this hubris idea, and we saw that in their downfall. So I have a hard time tying it to the stadium thing. And then the airlines,
all the airlines have gone BK.
Exactly.
It seems.
So what are you going to do about that? And then another problem I have is, some of the companies like AT&T, for example, as they've bought up several companies, they've also absorbed those naming rights. So AT&T has, I'm looking at 3.
They have a lot.
Yeah, they have 3 major ones: San Antonio, San Francisco for baseball, and AT&T Stadium in Dallas or Arlington, I think it is.
Yeah.
And then I looked on Wikipedia actually, and Toyota has, in some fashion, 10
I know.
10 deals. So, part of it is just kind of like a pride thing.
It's a marketing, maybe.
Exactly. And then I think local cities or local companies, they really try and, get, the behind the local sports teams. And we see that with Target, which pretty much dominates Minneapolis. If you've ever been there, they got Target Field and the Target Center. So they got two of them right there. Ford Field in Detroit, same thing. I mean, when you think of Detroit, you think of a car company. So, I have a little problem with that aspect, or Heinz Field as well in Pittsburgh. So, I definitely think it's a pride thing, but I think a lot of companies almost feel like they sort of have to do this to get out in front and, be like, we're part of the community too. Look at us. We're going to support the local sports team just like you. And then also, there's actually some smaller companies that do some naming deals. Your favorite Bojangles, actually.
Bojangles has a naming deal?
That's right. In Charlotte, the Charlotte Coliseum.
I didn't know this.
The Bojangles Coliseum is what it's called in Charlotte.
Wow.
But they're based out of Charlotte. So
well, that makes some sense. Okay, but let's talk about like ones that aren't based, in the area. Because I looked up Oakland Coliseum because I used to live in the Bay Area, and I was just kind of curious. We always just called it the Coliseum, no matter who sponsored it, which I guess is bad marketing by whoever sponsored it. But a whole bunch of people it wasn't good sponsorship, let's just put it that way. But I saw in 2011 that Overstock.com became their sponsor. And they're like, well, it's called something else now.
O.co Coliseum.
I don't even know. I don't even know how to say that. But they signed a 6-year deal in 2011 for $1.2 million a year, but the company is not doing that great. I mean, they are struggling. I don't think Overstock, they're not in the Bay Area. I think they're in Utah, aren't they? They used to be. So I don't really see what the tie is there, and I don't see why they're spending their money to get this deal. Right. In the same way that you just described when you're local to the community.
Or also Staples, are they based in Los Angeles? I'm not 100% sure, but either way, Staples is sponsoring where the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Kings play. So, this is a pretty prime, naming rights deal, and you got to save your Staples. You got a lot of other problems out there than worrying about, Blake Griffin or Kobe Bryant. So it seems like a very questionable move on their part as well.
Right. That's the thing I feel like, it's fine when times are good, but if things go bad, why are you spending this extra money to put your name on the side of these buildings?
But I mean, were things going that great for Staples anyway? That's what I'm...
I don't know. Maybe there's some peer pressure for them to just be on the sides of stadiums.
Exactly. So
now, I did look up to see if any energy companies were sponsoring, after the Enron thing, and now with oil and commodities having problems, and there is one.
Yes.
I didn't realize this.
Yeah, we were talking about this the other day.
Yeah, in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, the Thunder.
The Thunder, it's Chesapeake Energy Arena, and Chesapeake is having some issues
lot of trouble.
now. This was a long deal, too. This was signed in 2011. It's a 12-year contract for $3 million a year.
Yeah.
But again, in 2011,
they were sitting pretty.
Crude and natural gas and all that stuff was good for them.
Yeah, and I mean, this is another local pride issue, I think, as well. Because, how many other Oklahoma-based companies can you name off the top of your head that are, can get behind such a major team like the Oklahoma City Thunder, I think that's part of the problem that we're seeing.
So you wouldn't consider this, has the curse ended? Is that over now?
I think there's definitely...
Maybe it was a .com curse.
I don't know. I mean, and then, we saw airlines.
Right. I would say,
problem.
yeah.
I think there's definitely some truth to this one, but, there's just so many other examples out there. I have a hard time personally believing it. I do agree with you. I think it is probably a waste of money for some of these guys, but there's also other cases out there like Wrigley Field. I mean, people just say, "Oh, I'm going to Wrigley,"
Right.
So
there is a marketing aspect to it.
Yeah, exactly. Some stand the test of time, but a lot of them don't. So it's really about getting value, but it is tough.
Maybe it depends on what you pay.
Definitely.
Obviously. $20 million a year for Citi Field. But I am calling it Citi Field after all.
That's right.
Versus, $3 million in Oklahoma City. It's,
or whatever Bojangles paid.
Yeah, right, exactly. I doubt it's $20 million a year.
I hope not. Otherwise, that will be a stadium curse.
Right. I'm kind of scared that Bojangles. I didn't realize they did
I was waiting to spring that on you in the podcast.
Yeah, I hope none of my other favorite companies, don't start buying up the rights because I will be concerned.
That's right.
So I don't know. I don't feel like this is 80% accurate or whatever, or has that kind of track record like the Super Bowl one. So this is just one to watch. Right. It's kind of fun to talk about.
What's your favorite of the three?
I still like the Skyscraper.
Yeah, me too.
because it does show, if you're building those crazy high rises, it's kind of ominous.
Yeah.
I know we talk about it every time. It's always like,
Yeah.
dun dun, like someone, whenever they announce one, it's like, no, not again. Don't they learn? But no. So yeah, it's flashing kind of red right now.
Definitely.
That's not good. All right. That'll wrap up today's kind of interesting discussion. There's some more like of these kind of legends and things we
we'll have to
can
do
talk
another
about
one.
later. I don't want to give them away what they are now because those are some of my favorite ones too. But anything with curses or indicators, I'm going to talk about it at some point. But if you want to read more about any of this and the stocks that we mentioned here, because we did mention a lot of companies, we'll put those tickers in there. We already know some of them, but I did have to look up Overstock. They are actually traded. They're OSTK on the NASDAQ. We don't have a Zacks rank on them though, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but they're supposed to report earnings any day now, any moment. So there's that, and then a lot of the airline stocks we mentioned, and Bojangles, BOJA, of course.
And CHK for Chesapeake.
CHK, that's in the news right now. And Citigroup, is that still C?
Yes.
Still C for Citigroup. And United, I always forget what United
UAL.
is now. UAL.
And then AAL for American.
Okay. So I think that covers most of the
That's most of
tickers.
them.
Yeah. And if you want to catch any of our other podcasts, the other 17 that we've done, and including this one, you can find us on soundcloud.com or on iTunes and various other podcasting platforms. And like I said, you can check out our articles, Eric's and mine, and everything else we talk about here, stock related at Zacks on Zacks.com. So until next week.